All right, guys, so we've covered Gale database and how to use the power search and all that fun stuff. So let's talk about one of the other required source types that you've got to have with your paper. In addition to using two Gale sources on your final paper, you also have to use what's called a scholarly journal, otherwise called an academic journal. With this here, there's two main ways of finding these types of resources. Um, both have potential for use so long as they are academic or scholarly journals. So this is the power search that I used in the last video, in which I looked at technology and loneliness as keywords, and I found all those really great hits in regards to my topic. So I had like the age of loneliness and all that fun stuff. Over on the side, in the right hand panel, I actually have content types. Now, currently, I'm on magazines, which is totally valid, and I can definitely use this. However, I do also have different content types, including things like books, academic journals, news, videos, and so on. When I'm looking for an academic journal, this is actually one of the valid ways to find one. So, for instance, I already have my search terms in. If I click over here with academic journals, it's going to show me all the academic journals that deal with technology and loneliness as keywords. So let's see what Gale has already pre-established for me to potentially use. So I've got 13 academic journals dealing with technology and loneliness. Now, granted, some of these might end up not dealing with my topic. However, I've got some good stuff here. I've got high-tech loneliness, how our inventions keep us apart. That would be awesome. I've got, let's see, articulating loneliness and a digital dysphoria. I've got the bubble of solitude, how our sociability has eroded since Edison's invention of the phonograph, a cry unheard, the big disconnect. I've got quite a few potentials here. Lonely net, internet appears to cause decline in psychological well-being. Yeah. So here's the thing. I can actually grab academic journals from Gale. So those would still count as being part of that particular requirement, and I would still be allowed. Now, granted, I would still need two other Gale sources on top of that, but this would work. There is a second way in which to find a scholarly journal or an academic journal, and that's with using Google Scholar. So rather than just doing a normal Google search, if you type in scholar.google.com, it's going to take you here. And it functions really the same way that a Google search does. The only thing is, it's going to be looking at articles and it's going to be looking at academic resources. So Google Scholar, I'm going to do the same thing I would with Google, the same thing I did with the Power Search. I just need to make sure I'm putting in the right term. So let's put in technology and loan. Technology and loan, and see what comes up. Okay, so I have some things. That first one looks really good, but it doesn't even give me a link to the website and it doesn't give me a PDF, so that's kind of useless, right? Mm, None of the other ones are giving me really anything, but it's kind of working the same way that Gale did when I'm not putting in the right search terms. So let's try loneliness. Okay, here we go. This is way better. So it's just a matter of finding the right search term. So technology to reduce social isolation and loneliness, that's got some potential. I've got technology and loneliness in old age. That's useful too. Internet use and loneliness in older adults. Benefits of social technology. I've got quite a few potential options here. That internet paradox one looks really good too. So here's the only downside of using Google Scholar. If you click on the actual link, like we would generally, it's going to take you most oftentimes to a website, which is going to ask you to subscribe or like pay money for the article. Not always, but often enough that I would avoid even clicking on the link Don't do that. Instead, Google Scholar has something else that we're going to click on. So over here on the right hand side, I have like PDFs. This is what I'm actually going to click on instead. Now, this is kind of it's a little bit like playing the lottery, guys. You might still be prompted to pay for something. Don't. If you click on one of the PDFs and it doesn't give you an actual PDF and instead tries to get you to purchase, just move on to the next article. I have like 5 or 6 here that have some potential. I don't have to pay for anything. So let's see if I get lucky with my first one. Let's try that first PDF. All right, yay, I didn't have to pay for anything. That's a great sign. So this is what a scholarly journal typically does look like, or an academic journal. They always start off with an abstract. The abstract is just going to give you like a summary of what's being talked about. It will usually start off with an introduction, and then it will go into different subtopics. One of them will be like research factors. There's usually a lot of charts, that kind of thing. If you keep on going down, though, there's usually going to be two other things that are always going to be there. There's almost always a discussion area, and there's usually a portion that talks about, yeah, conclusions and summaries, sometimes even called results, depending on the academic journal that you're looking at. This here is what we're looking for when we're looking for a scholarly journal. So, obviously, this one's actually not too bad. It's only 8 pages, and really, like, the last 2 are references. This wouldn't be terrible. However, I know that looking at this, I'm already a little bit overwhelmed, and I am seeing things that I don't know words, and it looks like it's a really big undertaking. Here's the trick to using scholarly journals without becoming completely overwhelmed. And this is a lifesaver, guys. There's really only a couple sections you need to read. Just a couple sections. Read the abstract for sure. The abstract should be the first thing you read before you decide to even use it. If you see in the abstract that it's dealing with something interesting along the lines of your topic, awesome. It's going to let you know right then and there whether or not it will be potentially useful within your paper. If the abstract looks interesting, then we're going to take the time to actually read a couple portions. If you read the abstract and it doesn't have anything to do with what you think it's going to be dealing with, go to the next article. So, with this abstract, this one's dealing with a lot of things that I could potentially use. So, I am going to read a couple sections. I'm only going to read like 3 sections. That's it. I am going to read the introduction. Most definitely. With this one, it breaks the introduction into significance and introduction. I would actually read both. At the very least, I would read the introduction and then scan significance because I might be able to pull some stuff out from there. And then I'm going to go to the very bottom. I'm going to ignore all the details and all the research aspects. And I'm going to go down to the very bottom where it has my results, discussion, and conclusion. So discussion could be one that I read. This for sure is just going to be talking about what they learned or how the data and research went. But without a doubt, I will be reading the conclusion and summary area. Sometimes it's called result area. They're the exact same thing. This, however, is going to tell me everything that they found, all the judgments that they made based on the study. If I basically read the introduction and conclusion areas, I can skip, for the most part, everything in between because the material that I actually need, it's going to be at either the top or the bottom. So, really easy way to use an academic journal without putting in a ton of work on certain things that I just might not be able to handle. Now, when it comes to this here, if I didn't like this article, if it didn't work, I would simply need to go back to my Google Scholar search and try a couple more links. Do not use the HTML, only use the PDFs. But I still have plenty of options there too. So I just have to kind of play around with it, see what I can find.